according to China, Xinhua News, at least 900 young adults are taking part in military training, with some as young as 7 years old. In China, we're training boys at 7 years old. In America, we're transitioning boys at 7 years old. According to a new poll conducted by Pew Research Center in June, only 9% of young Americans ages 17 to 24 say they are very or somewhat likely to serve in the military in the next 4 years. This is the lowest percentage we've had expressed in the military service since 1979 when Pew Research started this. So here's what it makes me think about. Number one, 16 years old I need to be to get a driver's license, 18 years old to get a tattoo, 18 years old to vote, 21 years old to drink, 25 years old in many states to get a, rent a car. But California and some of the directions some places are going, hey, your daughter, your son can run away. This is a sanctuary state and you can come and do a procedure here without the consent of your parents. What will you do as a president to get this nonsense out to prevent kids under the age of 18 with or without the consent of the father to transition? You may even say that is an okay policy you're a part of that many families disagree with. One, what's your position on this, and what will you do as a president?
I mean, my position is that people should not be able to have access to those procedures, that minors shouldn't, without parental permission. And I don't know enough about it, Patrick, to say that it should be completely illegal for
under 18?
No. Yeah, I just don't know enough. What I'm going to tell you, well, because I don't know.
But Robert, I mean,
I don't. You know what? I don't know enough. I need to look at data before I make a decision. My inclination is that it's not good for anybody. There may be some rare cases where it saves somebody's life. I don't know that. And I'm not going to tell you that I have an answer to a question that I have not.
But Robert, there's a big difference.
Just tell you this.
I just want to say this. There's a big difference between those two things. One, saving somebody's life to transition and cut the dangling off. How are you saving that person's life? Some of these things, logically, they make no sense to parents. So parents are sitting there. Because you're going to have to answer this for both parents on both sides.
There's conflicting values here. And one of the values is freedom. To do what you want with your own body and have the government tell you you can or you can't do that.
Who is protecting kids under the age of 18, though?
And that's the other, right? And that's why I say nobody can do it without their parents' permission. That's solid. And then I have to look at the drugs, the safety of the drugs, whether there's permanent damage from the. I just don't know. You're rolling your eyes like I shouldn't have. This is an obvious question.
Do you trust a 14-year-old driving a car? Without a driver's license?
Well,
do you trust a 13-year-old voting? What if a parent consents for the 13-year-old to vote? Should we be okay with that? Because the parent said it's okay. Should we trust the parent that?
For a 13-year-old to vote.
I get that, but why should it be legal for somebody at 13 with parent consent to transition?
Well, first of all, the metaphors you gave are not apt, because when you drive a car, you're affecting other people. You're making a decision. I'm just telling you the truth. I don't have a position on this because I don't know enough about it. I believe my values are the same as yours, and you probably know a lot more about this and could explain it to me. But, I don't know whether there are rare cases. My inclination is that we shouldn't be giving drugs, we should limit any kind of drug that is dangerous, that their availability to young people. There may be some rare circumstances that you wouldn't want to criminalize it. So, I do believe this, that people who make those kind of decisions as adults should be that they shouldn't be subject to ridicule or derision or bias in any way, and that we should do everything we can to discourage those kind of decisions from young people. Can I add one other issue here?
Please, go for it.
There's a lot of things happening to our children now that we need to look at as a nation and that are being completely ignored. When my uncle was president, 6% of American children had chronic disease, of Americans. By chronic disease, I mean categories: obesity, neurological injuries like ADD, ADHD, speech delay, language delay, tics, Tourette syndrome, narcolepsy, ASD, autism. food allergies, peanut allergies, which I never saw in my life. I have 11 siblings, I have 70 cousins, none of them have food allergies. Why do 5 of my 7 kids have those allergies? And then autoimmune disease. Rheumatoid arthritis, juvenile diabetes, these exotic diseases like Crohn's disease and lupus that we never saw as a kid. A kid, 6%. 1986, 11.8%. By 2006, 54%. And this is one of the problems with our military. They're not eligible for military service. We don't know what it is today, because after 2006, NIH stopped publishing the data. It's probably 60% of our kids have autoimmune, allergic, or neurological diseases. You see EpiPens in every classroom. You see albuterol inhalers. You have, in some classes, 70% of the kids are on Adderall. They're diagnosed with ADHD. What's happening? Autism went from 1 in 10,000 in my generation to 1 in every 34 kids today. And it's not because we're seeing it suddenly, because then you'd see it in my generation. I've never seen a 69-year-old man with full-blown autism. By that I mean nonverbal, non-toilet trained, head banging, stimming, toe walking, hand flapping. I've never seen that in a 69-year-old man. But in my kids' generation, it's 1 in every 34 kids. EPA, Congress said to EPA, tell us what year it started, the epidemic started. EPA came back. EPA is a captive agency, but it's captive by oil, coal, chemical, and big ag. It's not captive by pharma, because it doesn't regulate pharma. So they came back with an honest study, and they said it's a red line, 1989. Well, as it turns out, these diseases, most of them started on that same timeline. Around 1989, peanut allergies suddenly appear, obesity goes crazy. We go from 6% of having obesity to 45% of kids, 75% overweight. It's not because they suddenly got lazy, American kids. It's because they're being mass poisoned by something. And why aren't we asking the question, what is that? What is happening to American children? We have the highest chronic disease rate of any nation in the world. We have the highest COVID death rates. We had 16% of the COVID deaths in this country. We only have 4.2% of the world's population. Why is that? Bad management, number one. Number two, it was chronic disease killing these kids. EPA said, of the Americans who died from COVID, on average, they had 3.8 chronic disease. They had diabetes, asthma, obesity, and one other, or some other group. We have the highest chronic disease rate in the world, and it's bankrupting us. When my uncle was president, 6%. Now it's probably 6%, but if you look at Medicare bills, we're paying total of $4.3 trillion a year on healthcare, and 93% of that is going to chronic disease. It's an unnecessary cost. And nobody's asking the question, why is it happening? Oh, there's a doctor in New York, a toxicologist, a very famous toxicologist called Phil Landrigan. And he's a guy I've used as an expert in many cases. He's actually done studies and said, what could it be? You have to find a toxin that became ubiquitous in 1989, in the early 90s, and affected every demographic in our country, from Cubans in Key Biscayne, the Inuit in Alaska, and affects boys in neurological injuries 4-to-1 ratio to girls. Oh, he looked at some of these questions and he said there's only about 13 things it could possibly be. One of those is glyphosate from Roundup. One of them is neonicotinoid pesticides, atrazine, which is in 63% of our water. High fructose corn syrup, which follows some of that timeline. Wi-Fi radiation from cell phones, which I've won a case on in the Court of Appeals, and then there's PFOAs, which is a forever chemical. It's a flame retardant. That was put in all of our kids' pajamas on that timeline and all of our furniture, and there's a few more. The easiest thing in the world is to actually go do the study, identify what it is that is making Americans so sick, and that's 93% of our healthcare costs. Let's eliminate those toxins. That's what I'm going to do when I get in there. I'm going to go in and I'm going to tell all these scientists from EPA, we're not developing drugs anymore. We're going to give infectious disease a break for a couple of years, and we're going to find out, why are we the sickest people on the face of the earth? Why is that happening to America? And we should all be talking about this issue.
I would love to see you. Are you willing to dedicate some of your time the next couple months to see?
And by the way, the issue that you raise is one of the things that needs to be studied. Let's look at it and then make a decision based on data and that is consistent with our values. My values on this are the same as you. I just don't have the confidence that I've talked to enough people and read enough studies to actually make a defensible decision by saying, oh, ban this for everybody. I don't know.
Okay.
Somebody may come to me and say, wait a minute, my child's life was saved. I don't know.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.